Another UTS Startups Confessions.
This everybody?
Okay, so can we get a little round of applause to warm up? Beautiful, thank you very much. And I'll dive in 10 seconds.
Yes.
What is Canopy Study?
So Canopy Study, we're on a mission to empower the world to learn. And right now that means helping teachers by automating the creation of teaching material and providing it to students such that it adapts to their unique learning needs. And that's it.
Hold on,
Canopy
okay.
Study in 10 seconds.
Okay, for the people that are not paying attention at home, teachers already have learning materials. How
Yes.
do you make it better than what they have already?
So it takes teachers extremely long amount of time to create learning resources for their students. And this is evident in university and high school, but when you look at how in lectures, students receive a lecture and they're expected to write their notes and remember their notes, but students don't learn via writing notes. Students learn via recalling information and testing themselves on it. I can go into this a lot more later, but essentially we help teachers create extra materials like quizzes, like practice tests and flashcards, such they can give it to their students, and then we use these study resources that have been created to feed them to students and adapt them to the students' learning paths. And so the process is automated because the teacher can just put their teaching material onto the platform and we'll generate these extra resources in minutes.
Okay, boom.
Yes.
That is the cool part of this because I'm sure I can use different editing tools to make stuff myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of being able to just upload a lecture and have it spit out a quiz and kind of flashcards and other things automatically for me.
That's the cool part. Yeah, it's all done in literally minutes. So we use AI to convert these documents or articles off the internet, and we use AI to process them and convert them into practice tests and flashcards that students can use to study, which is really cool.
Okay, awesome. So who were you before you started this?
Before I started, wow, okay, so back when I was a teenager, I was really obsessed with AI, and that started with Iron Man and Jarvis, because I was really obsessed with the idea of how AI could help humans with efficiency, productivity, and decision making. And I thought that is super cool. Imagine having a personal assistant that can help you in your day-to-day activities. And so throughout my teen years, I spent learning programming, learning AI, with an obsession with this idea that AI could help humans by automating tasks that we don't want to do on a day-to-day basis. And so I just self-taught myself all this programming, and that led into university when I learned programming as well. And I still self-taught myself through university. And coming into university is when I realized a tool that we are building is so crucial because nothing like that exists. It was a realization for us. It's the problem exists, and we can use AI again to solve this problem.
Okay.
And
so take me there. What were your first memories of this as an idea?
Okay, so coming into uni, I was taught, like every other student, to write notes on my lectures, read those notes over and over and over, and hope that I pass exams. And students are taught this through primary school, high school, and into university. The problem is that the education system is built to teach students how to pass tests, not how to learn. And so the issue then becomes that students are, really effective at recognizing material and then recognizing that same material in an exam and just regurgitating it, but they struggle to recall that information and process it analytically. So imagine it's the same concept actually as how students remember faces versus how people remember faces versus names. So imagine you're really good at recognizing a face, and if you've seen someone before, but you struggle to remember their name. And that's because those are two completely different processes in the brain. One is recognizing, and two is recalling. And similarly with students, we're really good at recognizing whether we've seen information before, and it tricks students into thinking that they know the content because they've seen it. And the problem is that you recognize it, but you can't recall it. And so that's the struggle that I had at uni, is I can't recall this information, but I know that I've seen it before, so I thought I knew it. And so I started building things like flashcards for myself and my friends and handing them out and looking at all different methods of learning and what's like the most optimal thing for human to learn. What does that process look like? And after building it manually, I realized why it doesn't exist is because it's so time consuming. It's so time consuming to create flashcards, to create practice tests. And that's why educators don't do it. It's because it's so hard to just create this for every single piece of material you put out. And so I thought, I love AI. I love the idea of automating processes with AI. Why can't I automate the process of, taking any material and creating these learning resources instantly? And that's why we built Canopy Study.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you do that as someone living in Sydney, paying for stuff in Sydney? Like, what enabled you to work on that, having realized it's a good idea?
Coming up, I was lucky enough to live with my parents, first of all. That's very lucky. And then I got a job in second to third year of uni, saved a lot of money because I knew that everything that I earned from this, I was just going to spend over the next year or two as a kind of life fund whilst I lived out this mission of mine to build this. And once I left uni, I just ran through my savings for about a year or 2 years and didn't earn anything just whilst I worked on this nonstop. And so that's how I funded my journey. So.
Okay, those overpaid engineer salaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, worked out all right. So that kind of first year of Canopy, what did that look like? What were you doing?
So the first year was iteration. I left university and I started building this idea out. And for the first 2 years, really, it was waking up, going to my desk, working all day and night, and then going back to sleep. And so that was just over and over and over. And it looked like building the product. It looked like learning how I needed to run a business. That was one of the biggest things, is all these different aspects. It's not just building the product, but it's also talking to customers. It's doing surveys, getting user feedback. It's doing the sales, doing the marketing, doing all these, because I'm a programmer. And so doing all these other tasks is something I had to go out and learn how to do and become very well-rounded. And so, my first year looked like becoming well-rounded, figuring out how to bring on a team, figuring out how to attract people into the vision that I'm building. And that was also really crucial, is that first 2 years was bringing on my two co-founders, Andre and Ethan, who I could not have built what I've built without the team that I have. And
you've got a really good team.
Yeah, and I'm super, super lucky that we have such a good team.
Can you please tell everyone how to recruit an amazing team of co-founders like that?
So I got extremely lucky. My team is just my best friends that I met in high school, which is just super fortunate. For other people, it is very difficult to find a team that you can trust and that is well-rounded, because we fill in each other's gaps very well. And majority of us have a very technical background, which is fantastic for what we're trying to build.
How did you sell them on that idea, though? Because it's one thing to know good people, but they must have been motivated by something. How did you sell this as an idea? Or was it the technical challenge that was kind of bringing them in?
A mix of things. One, I have an extreme passion for what we're building, and I have so much conviction and that it will work and that we will achieve the vision. And I think that alone, that's attractive to people, because people are attracted to, something that not only they can believe in, but they have conviction that will work. And so, building a team like that, it's one, you have to build something that's really like that people find cool. I think it's awesome. Like, you're not going to go and work for tiny startup that you don't believe in. But I mean, two, we were solving problems that the founders have also felt, right? These are problems. It's like, oh, I understand that problem, and I understand the solution you're trying to build. I really believe in that. Let me, join your journey. And so I think that was a big part of it as well.
Okay, cool. I love enabling technologies in companies. Would you say there are particular technologies that make this possible now as a company?
Absolutely. I mean, research in AI in general is exponential. And over the last, I would say what we're building right now would not be possible 3 years ago. And even 2 years ago. I mean, the AI research is so fast, but even still, like the technologies that we're using are so cutting edge research that, what we've been doing has only been possible very recently in time. So yeah, enabling technologies, I can only thank, extremely smart researchers like one that we have on our team, plus, people around the world who are much smarter than me, building really cool stuff.
Okay. So good team, good technologies that are making this possible today, an obvious need for it. You had a recent fundraising event, so 1.1?
Yes, 1.1 mil. I can't talk too much about it until a bit later, but yeah, that's been fairly recent and super exciting. That's enabled us to do a lot of cool things.
Okay, how did that come about?
That came about us looking at, one, we didn't have much runway. Two, we have this incredible technology. How do we scale it? And three, not just scaling the technology, but scaling the team. So it's like, we have this incredible product, we have this incredible technology. How can we take the momentum and the fact that we're first to market, and how can we really accentuate that by bringing on a much larger team and building this out as fast as possible so that we can get as many teachers and students on it as possible. And so really the need came from, let's expand the team, and that's where we are now, expanding the team. But
it also sounded like, forgive me, you didn't work that hard for that fundraising round.
It was very lucky for us. We're building something that is extremely cool, that is extremely cutting edge. It's very innovative in a market that is it's a complete drought of innovation, which is education. It's been undisrupted at the level that we are doing so for a long time. Teachers are still using processes that should have been automated years ago, and working weekends and working evenings into their own personal life when they shouldn't need to. And that's what that's one part of the problem we're trying to solve, is that that market is so devoid of innovation to this level. And so I think that's extremely attractive in terms of investing.
Would you say EdTech is a strength of Australia? Like the fact that you're able to raise that round here relatively easily?
Yeah, I think EdTech in general is very hot. And in Australia, I think it definitely has a lot of potential. It's hard to say because you go overseas, somewhere like America, it's completely different market, and who knows what would have happened over there. But at least here, it's extremely hot, and
that helps.
Yeah, that definitely helps. That definitely helps. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so did I mention this is 2 years old? So you started in 2020.
Yes.
What does the company look like today?
Today, it looks like an office in Surrey Hills with a team of 4, which is so much fun. We've recently just, our week is working and playing table tennis and sinking beers. So just like a regular startup. And it's fantastic. We all work full time now, so but previously it was just me working full-time for 2 years. And everyone that I had on was working part-time because they had other full-time jobs. And so the fundraise allowed our team to come on full-time. And that, for me personally, was just so extraordinary because I get to wake up, go to work in our office and work with my best friends every day and build really, really cool things. So
Interesting.
Right now, it looks like how I imagined it would if I was dreaming 2 years ago.
Do you prefer this as a work style to being an engineer for someone else?
1,000,000%, yeah.
Tell me
I've always wanted to build something that I felt like I could provide a lot of value to. So, for instance, working in a corporate environment, in an employee amongst 1,000, I felt like the value that I provided was so minuscule on a measure that I could work weekend and just nonstop, and then I would affect such a small amount of the business. And I was like, I want to do something where I can make a huge impact to millions of people, and every little decision makes it's like not make or break, but provides a lot of value to people instead of being in that other situation. So that was it for me, really.
It seems like incredibly cool, the idea that you can make education for a lot of people better. You can make the lives of teachers a lot better. You can make the whole system work a lot better, and then eventually disrupt it all by providing your own education or something else, whatever the next step is.
Yes.
But I can see why this is kind of working out as an enjoyable thing to work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking back, so yourself 2 years ago, if you're looking down the camera at yourself, what advice would you have?
2 years ago? I would say rounding my skills more would have benefited me a lot. So I come from a very technical background. So I think had I spent a chunk of time throughout those 2 years learning other skills like marketing and sales a lot more thoroughly than I have, I think that would have benefited me a lot. So I think becoming more well-rounded as a founder would definitely have benefited me. So I spent a lot of time just building product and product improvement and product management. And so I think, that would have been a big factor of it, would be to go and learn all the different other skills of a business. And so now I'm learning those now, in the last year or so, which could have benefited me a long time ago.
Do you worry that learning those kind of skills before you do something might have talked you out of actually doing it?
No, because I think the fact that the work is hard doesn't turn me off doing the work. Because at the end of the day, why am I working towards what I'm working towards? It's like, what is the vision of the company? And especially whenever you're working on something difficult and you feel defeated, it's like, why are you working towards this? And that's why it's so important to have such a strong vision for the company and have such a strong vision of where do you want to go, whose lives do you want to change. And I think in the darkest days, it's looking at that and saying, well, why am I doing this? And that goes for everyone in the company as well. So
Okay.
for sure.
One last question.
Yeah.
How has it changed you as a person doing this?
Largely. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, one, it's allowed me to move out, which is exciting. So that's been fantastic. But it's forced me to learn a lot of soft skills. I think is extremely important as well. Become a leader, learn leadership skills, learn management skills. I think is crucial. And having not become an entrepreneur, I think I would have eventually learned those maybe in the corporate world. But jumping into an entrepreneur role, it's definitely forced me to learn these sort of skills early, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think soft skills are more important than any other especially when building a team or dealing with a team. So I think that's been a huge impact on me over the last 2 years for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we need a bit of a canopy for the weather behind us.
Yes.
But for everyone watching this, if you are a teacher or lecturer or work at an educational institution and you care about your students and their outcomes,
Yes.
Canopy.study.
www.canopy.study.
And I understand you're also hiring engineers at the moment?
Yes, we are. A front-end engineer and a DevOps engineer.
Okay, and I think there might be some equity components in there, so
Absolutely.
and decent salaries. So
Yes.
go to that website for that as well. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn off the camera in a second, and we're going to go to Q&A from the audience that are the kind of juicy questions for this. If you are watching this, please come down and join us in person for that part of the session. It's UTS Startups Central at the corner of Harris and Broadway every Friday at 3:30. But Dean, thank you very much for joining us. Please, a round of applause for Dean.
Absolutely.